What if an entire historical archive once existed, and only its copies survived? Not digital backups, not photographs, but heavy metal plates. And what if no one today can prove what those copies were made from, because the originals may be gone forever? This is not a legend. This is not a forgotten myth. It is a real historical puzzle, and its greatest mystery is not what these objects say. It is what is missing. In the mountain town of Sinaia, at the site of Monastira Sinaia, a series of unusual lead tablets were reportedly discovered. Their later history and their present location remain unclear and are still debated. What survives today is not a complete, transparent archival record, but a fragmented trail of objects, photographs, drawings, and handwritten transcriptions. From those fragments, one of the most unusual historical controversies in modern Romania quietly emerged. At first glance, the tablets appear unremarkable: dull metal, rough surfaces, irregular edges. There is no gold, no monumental stone carving, no ceremonial splendor. And yet these heavy, fragile plates are covered with engravings, symbols, names, scenes, architectural forms, dense lines of writing. They seem to preserve fragments of an unknown written world, a world no one has been able to reconstruct with certainty. For most international audiences, Sinaia is not a famous archaeological destination. It is not Rome, it is not Athens, it is not Troy. There are no ancient cities rising from the ground, no monumental ruins drawing global attention. Which is precisely what makes this story so unusual, because the mystery of the lead tablets does not begin in a spectacular ancient site. It begins in modern collections, scattered documentation, and unanswered questions. The tablets themselves are relatively thin metal plates, cast from lead and engraved after casting. Some depict human figures, some show animals. Others appear to show buildings, fortifications, or symbolic structures. Several tablets are almost entirely filled with lines of script. The visual style varies significantly. Some engravings look carefully planned, others appear rushed or inconsistent. And unlike most inscriptions found in Europe, these do not clearly belong to any known historical writing system. Not Greek, not Latin, not any established local alphabet. Which leads directly to the first serious problem: the language. Researchers who attempted to analyze the inscriptions quickly encountered a fundamental obstacle. The writing resists classification. Some characters resemble known letters, others do not. Words cannot be consistently separated. Grammar cannot be reconstructed. And most importantly, different researchers read the same lines in radically different ways. In other words, before anyone can ask what these texts mean, they must first determine what language they are written in. And to this day, no accepted answer exists. But the real turning point in this story does not come from linguistics. It comes from a much more unsettling idea. A hypothesis shared by several researchers who have worked extensively on the tablets, that the lead tablets themselves may not be the original historical objects. Instead, they may be copies, reproductions, transcriptions of an earlier source. Which immediately raises a far more troubling question: copies of what? If these tablets were produced as replicas, then an earlier archive must have existed. a prior collection of texts, a lost body of written material. And according to some interpretations, those originals may not have been made of lead at all. They may have been created in a different, far more valuable medium. A possibility that would also explain something else: why no such originals have ever been securely identified. This changes the entire nature of the mystery, because the main question is no longer whether the lead tablets themselves are ancient. The deeper question becomes, do they preserve real historical information that originated somewhere else? Are these objects fabricated narratives, or are they the last surviving echoes of a written tradition that has completely vanished? At this point, the story enters an uncomfortable zone for professional historians, because studying the tablets properly is extraordinarily difficult. There is no clear archaeological context, no controlled excavation, no verified discovery layer, no stratigraphy, no associated settlement, no datable material found together with the objects. As a result, the tablets remain largely outside mainstream academic research. There is no long-term institutional project dedicated exclusively to them. No coordinated international program combining archaeology, epigraphy, metallurgy, and linguistics. They cannot easily be placed within a secure historical framework. Into this vacuum stepped independent researchers, historians working on their own, linguists outside formal institutions. The same line of symbols can be read in multiple, incompatible ways. The same figure can be interpreted as a ruler, a priest, a warrior, or a purely symbolic character. Chronologies change dramatically depending on the chosen reading. In some reconstructions, the tablets describe political lineages. In others, religious traditions. In others, administrative or territorial structures. Yet none of these interpretations can be confirmed through independent archaeological evidence. Among independent researchers, several speculative interpretations have emerged. None of them are accepted by mainstream scholarship. And none of them can currently be verified through archaeology. But together, they reveal how radically different the tablets can be understood. One theory proposes that the inscriptions preserve fragments of political and dynastic history from ancient Dacia. According to this interpretation, some of the engraved figures and repeated names would represent local rulers, elites, or leaders whose memory never entered Greek or Roman written sources. In this view, the tablets would function as a lost internal archive, a record created by the local population itself, not by foreign observers. Another hypothesis suggests that several scenes and symbols are not political at all, but religious. Supporters of this idea argue that the tablets may preserve ritual imagery, sacred structures, and symbolic narratives connected to local belief systems. In this reading, the tablets would not document history in the modern sense, but a spiritual worldview, a structured representation of myth, cosmology, and sacred authority. A third theory moves in a different direction. It proposes that the tablets were designed as a visual and educational system. Not simply texts to be read, but structured panels meant to transmit knowledge through images, repeated signs, and standardized layouts. In this interpretation, the tablets would represent a form of organized cultural memory, closer to a teaching archive than to a historical chronicle. Not necessarily as a deception, but as a personal or intellectual project shaped by 19th century ideas about national origins, ancient identity, and lost civilizations. In this view, the tablets would tell us less about ancient Dacia and far more about the period in which the tablets themselves were produced. What is striking is not that these theories contradict one another. It is that the tablets can support all of them. And at present, there is no independent evidence capable of clearly confirming or rejecting any of these readings. Perhaps future discoveries will change this picture. Perhaps new analytical technologies will reveal patterns no human reader can currently see. Or perhaps the tablets will remain exactly what they are today, an unresolved historical riddle, not proof of a lost civilization, not a hoax conclusively exposed, but a rare and unsettling reminder that history is not shaped only by what survives. It is shaped just as powerfully by what disappears. Because sometimes the greatest historical mystery is not what a text reveals. It is the silence of everything that should have existed around it. And that silence may be the only true answer the Lead Tablets can still offer us.